Hey everyone, welcome back. We're continuing our Patreon requested book review of this wonderful book concerning the Islamic poetry of Imam Mawlud, and the book is written by Hamza Yusuf. So, quite compelling it has been. Remember though, we were dealing with the topic of displeasure with the divine decree. Okay, he noted all the suffering thus far of the Prophet. Hamza dying, his wife Khadija dying. 5 children passing away. Quite intense suffering, right? Quite intense. His uncle Abu Talib passing away, right? So we're going to pick up on that high note, way to enter into a video, but it is quite thought compelling. So let's continue. How many people have faced all of that? Not once in a single hadith is there a complaint from him, except when beseeching his Lord. To be displeased at God's divine decree is to plunge into heedlessness, ghafla. Okay, again, he's perfect at introducing us to Islamic terms that we can understand things. So, we had sincerely repenting to God was tawbah, and then disobedience to God was masiyah, and then now we have ghafla, okay? And that is heedlessness. And let me tell you something. Being heedless is definitely tied to arrogance. Definitely tied to arrogance. In his book, Al-Furuq, Imam al-Qarafi distinguishes the difference between a divine decree and being content with the decree itself. Okay, being content with the decree and the divine decree versus being content with the divine decree itself. Okay. Should people be happy with all that comes their way, including the bad things? God has decreed that evil exists in the world in order to test humankind, and for reasons that accord with His wisdom. Yeah, Allah knows best why we get tested in what we do, but sometimes you need to be made an example of or get an example from others, right? We should not be displeased with His choice in allowing this, but when one sees societies plunged into immorality, it is not something to be pleased with or even to feel indifferent toward. On the contrary, God requires that we dislike it. Okay, so you don't become indifferent. You don't become indifferent, but you also don't wallow in your self-pity or overly become resentful and wailing and strange. But never should we resent. Oh, look, yeah. I was just thinking that. But never should we resent or be displeased with the fact that God has created a world wherein such things exist, however unpleasant they may be. As Ibn Abbas said, every trial could have been worse, such as if it involved one's worldly affairs rather than religion, and if it came in this world and not the hereafter, which lasts forever. Yeah, so he listed those points for us, remember? Remember he said that if you have a trial, something's going on, understand that it's of the world, it's not of the spiritual dimension, it's going to pass. The wisdom and virtue of that situation will hopefully, God willing, be made apparent later. So you have to have hope, you have to have faith, you have to keep pressing onward. You can't just look to the state, look for any other people. You turn directly to God for your aid, and provides the aid for you. So, very good points for us. Imam al-Qarafi gives the examples of a physician who amputates the arm of a patient who has a gangrene spreading out of control. I heard you get that from really moldy pools. We have a pool in the apartment complex, but they don't clean it. Just people go smoke drugs over there. And the water is green. You can't swim in it. It's a mosquito party time. But I heard that you get gangrene from that. It must not be very pleasant. One day the physician overhears the patient complaining that the physician was ignorant for amputating his arm. The physician is offended, for he saved the man's life. Had the physician heard the patient praising him, despite the fact that he lost an arm, and is discomforted by pain, the physician would feel compassion for the man. That's true. There's that classical scene in Game of Thrones where Sam cures Jorah, and Jorah is very ecstatic. When the other people in the Citadel, the other maesters, didn't want to try to heal his skin disease of the grayscale which turns them into a stone man kind of zombie creature. So, good point. You thankful to a good physician for doing what they have to do, but if some doctors are bad, you gotta let them have it, right? It really depends. If they saved you, they saved you. And if they did a bad job, you let them have it in court, right? So if one speaks about God's decree, saying, God is testing me, but it is his will, and there is wisdom in it, this differs greatly from the remarks of one who complains about the perceived injustices in the world. Yeah, I've definitely adopted that personality, thinking of it as a test. There's going to be wisdom to it, and I'm sticking to that, because you gotta. There is no other choice. You have to not wallow. No more victimhood culture. It's too much victimhood Olympic culture. Just everyone's oppressed. Everyone's looking for a reason to have sympathy points. There's real people who need sympathy, and there's real moments when you need sympathy, but some people, they scapegoat endlessly, and it's like, come on, man. There's a bit of you in there, and then there's a bit out of your control, but there's a bit of you in there, right? This sort of victimhood Olympics, right? Big giant systems oppressing you. It's like there's some truth to it, but you still gotta navigate. So if you just sit around whining about perceived injustices in the world and getting mad at God for testing you, you're becoming arrogant, and you have to watch it, right? You have to have a stronger will to keep going with gracious patience. This is what I'm learning. What do you think, fam? We are now in a new section, and it says seeking reputation. Oh, here we go. That one's a very good topic. This is poem verses 108 and 116. So the way it's structured is we read the poem, get into his commentary. So let's get into the poems. Okay. The disease of seeking reputation entails informing others of one's acts of obedience after they have been performed, free of blemishes. Okay, so if you're trying to let everyone know that you did something so perfectly that it sort of comes off as just like narcissism, sounds like. This results from some causes of showing off. A good deed becomes corrupted when telling others of it. But should you repent, the deed's goodness is restored. Okay, so don't show off the good deed. Like he said, there's a balance. Remember earlier, the intention is key. Did you do it for the sake of Allah, or did you do it for the sake of social media? There's a lot of that now. There's a lot of social justice warriors, lots of grifting, lots of woke points being scored. I have to be very careful about that. We all do. A lot of people maximizing social media clout off of perceived activism. It's very... we all gotta be careful, right? Similar to this are deeds done so that others may hear about them. The one who does this is also considered a seeker of reputation, according to those with insight. According to those with insight, those who think and ponder internally. Okay, don't do deeds just for the sake of others hearing about it. Okay. The great brigand al-Shizaz, who robs all of these wayfarers, is covetousness. Okay, the great brigand al-Shizaz. Never heard of that, don't know what that is. All of these wayfarers of covetousness. Wayfarers, people passing through, they covet it. This is the cause of every iniquity, such as backbiting, lies, preoccupation of the heart during one's prayers, and insincere praise of others. I don't do insincere praise of others. I hate that. I can't stand it. The LinkedIn crowd, liberals on the LinkedIn crowd, it's an endless cycle of just insincere praising others. It's freaky. It's freaking me out. It's like you don't even know who you're talking to anymore. It's just everyone's just like so afraid to be who they are, so afraid to be authentic because of woke PC culture. They want to do these virtue signaling. They want to. We're getting into a really weird area here. I agree. This flattery. It's disgusting, isn't it? Indeed, one will inevitably resort to hypocrisy as a result of it. Gotta be careful. So if we are insincere in our praise, it'll lead us to hypocrisy. Okay, and don't do deeds for the sake of just others hearing about it. And if we do it, we're acting in disobedience. Don't seek the reputation over seeking to know and get closer to your maker, essentially, is his point, right? Very compelling. Very compelling.